My guest is June Jaffe. Welcome to the show, June. Now, you're an expert on spices, but you didn't start off as an expert from what you said.
No, didn't start off as an expert on spices. I actually, my profession is cheese making.
Why would you give that up?
Well, I was actually forced to give it up because the kibbutz went privatized and I had to look for a job. So
you live on a kibbutz?
Yeah. Yeah.
And was that a radical change in your life, all the changes
Tremendous.
in the kibbutz?
Yeah, tremendous change.
You get indoctrinated as a socialist, and then the world disappears.
Yeah, that's right. You know, those who didn't leave the kibbutz left them.
Okay, well, we'll go back to spices then.
Okay, so I came here and I started working here, and I got very interested in the whole thing and started reading up more and more.
You became an expert on
well,
spices.
I don't know
as
about
cheeses.
an expert, but it's an interesting
subject. You're going to tell me about some special spices.
Right.
What's the first one?
Okay, so let's start here. Every spice, spices basically have a big, a lot to do with our food. They give us our color and our aroma and our taste, obviously. But every single spice has its own virtues. So that is possibly a sphere that is less known. This is turmeric, for instance.
Which is a very common
Turmeric
spice.
is a very, very common spice. It is actually like the main ingredient of a lot of the blends of spices. If it's the Hawaij that the Yemenites use, or the Ras el Hanout the Moroccans use, or the curry that the Indians use, it is the main ingredient in the blend.
And what is special about your turmeric?
Well, the turmeric is actually antibiotic. It's actually nature's antibiotic. If you get a cut or something when you're busy making a salad or something like that, you put a bit of turmeric, it stops the bleeding, it disinfects the area, prevents any type of infection. It is actually nature's antibiotic. And the story goes, in fact, even that when the children arrived on the campaign, the Shlomo campaign, and the soldiers met them at the airport, they didn't understand why the children were so yellow, and they found out afterwards that actually the mothers had smeared them with turmeric before they left Ethiopia, that they wouldn't get any infection on the way. So it's, and actually even, I don't know what happens in Canada, but here after the Brit Milah, they give the mother a little container of yellow powder to put on the Brit Milah, and in that powder is a certain percentage of turmeric.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever heard
Well,
of that.
the idea of the powder, of the yellow powder, is to stop the bleeding and prevent infection and disinfect the area, and it does all that. It's amazing.
As well as being a food additive.
And actually, latest research has actually proved that turmeric can actually prevent the development of cancerous cells in the body.
Really?
Especially in the intestine. So if basically, someone who has a family history of intestinal cancer, that you can actually prevent it. But that means that you have to take a big dosage, not what you get in your rice or your soup or something like that. You actually need to take a teaspoon of turmeric every day, put it in a cup, pour on it hot water, let it stand for 5-10 minutes, and drink it. And it's actually quite disgusting. So you need
I
to
thought
put...
you were going to say it was quite tasteful.
No, it's not tasty at all. You'd actually need to put like a bit of honey or sweetener, or something like that.
Okay, what's the next place?
The next one, okay.
Now, I'm a skeptic, June, so you have to convince me that these are healthy.
Okay, so here we have blends of medicinal herbs. Most of them have got a good few things with them in the ingredients. We have a blend here to take down blood pressure, to take down your sugar content in the blood, to take down the cholesterol. We have achinitsea, which is good for strengthening the
What is it?
It
Strengthens not my muscles.
No, not muscles. It's for the immune system.
Oh, the immune system.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So that's and here we have all these different things for sore throats, for prostrate gland, for, and that's it.
I'm curious if there's any research on this to really back up these claims.
Well, I can tell you that we have quite a lot of our customers that come, try it, take it home, and try in small quantities, and then they phone and we do send them more. So that's also good.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, next we have here, okay, so here we have the black Nigella. If the turmeric is antibiotics, nature's antibiotic, this is actually nature's real medicine, real medicine.
You mean that's an amateur in comparison?
Well, no, that's good for, it's an antibiotic.
Okay.
But this, the disadvantage about the Nigella is that it has a hard shell. So actually, when you use it, you have to crush it so that you can digest it, because we don't have the enzyme in the body to digest the actual shell of it. And then you use 1 tablespoon a day of the crushed Nigella. And what does it do? It takes down the blood pressure, takes down the sugar in the bloodstream, takes down cholesterol. It's good if you suffer from rheumatic, acne, asthma, and it strengthens the immune system. And more than that, you don't need. So you have this, the Nigella seed here, 1 tablespoon a day of the crushed Nigella, or we also have the Nigella oil. This is oil that is made in a cold pressed oil, and it has all those virtues that I just said now. And the idea is to have 1 teaspoon of the Nigella oil on an empty stomach in the morning, to drink afterwards a cup of cold water, and you're set.
I'm going to check up on you on all of this.
On all of this.
And I'll report back to you. But in the meanwhile, thank you very much for this excellent stories. Whether true or not,
well, I'll tell
they're worthwhile hearing.
Actually, an interesting thing about the Nigella is when they opened up the Tutankhamun, the pyramid,
Egypt, yeah.
They found at his head a little bag with the Nigella seeds in it, because they actually believe that it also rejuvenates. And when he comes to life, he'll be rejuvenated. Oh, so they found that also. So that's like an interesting side story.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take Nigella and be rejuvenated.
I really need it. My guest is Ernie Rubenstein. Welcome to the show, Ernie.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Now, you've been involved in the media. You were a producer of Cats. You've been in all kinds of different things. You know the media. We're a piece of the media. How are we important to the Jewish community, to Israel, or are we important?
We're important because we are the beaten up. We are easy to beat up. The one thing
you mean our show is easy?
No, I'm sorry. I referred to the Jewish people. The one thing that we have not done a good job with over the last few years is to portray ourselves in a positive way in the media. We have been more or less taking, being passive as opposed to aggressive in getting, educating the world about Jewish people. Times have changed. Of course, people have forgotten what happened 60 years ago. You're into new generations. The continuing education that is required to detail what Israel is about and what the Jewish people are about is not being done.
Do you think we make a significant contribution to that, or are we just a small puddle in it?
No, I think it is a significant contribution. First of all, the thousands of people that do watch your show are being educated, and it really is about education. What does each generation have if they don't have education? It is up to each generation to educate the next generation, and that's, I think, an important function of what your show is doing.
But if we try to get the broad spectrum, but you know, you don't want to get an ego about yourself and pretend you're doing things that you're on. If I'm being critical, do we change people's mind, or do we just address already people who are convinced and are interested in Israel anyway, And so we're not really getting anywhere to a broader audience.
Well, I think that is the challenge. How do we get to the broader audience? How do we continue the education? How do we educate others, not just our own Jewish people? And that's an important aspect too, because as you know, as generations become more assimilated, they tend to forget some of the basic elements. But also to broaden the audience, that's necessary. It's not just about Jewish people, because Israel and the Jewish people are important to Christians as well as Jewish people.
And others, because I'd say half our audience is probably not Jewish, and they come from all kinds of people. I know when traveling TTC, you meet lots of people and they talk to you, and they're from all kinds of backgrounds.
Life, cultures, religions are universal. The more we understand, the better we will all be.
With that, I want to thank you, Ernie, for being on the show. Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me.